That is extraordinary. I'm cheating a little bit today. I'm not actually in the Ottawa Valley, although I've had to drive up the Ottawa Valley to get here. I'm at the Brent Crater on the northeast side of Algonquin Park. The Brent Crater is a 450 million year old crater formed by the impact of a meteorite on this land at a time when this area was near the equator and covered by a shallow tropical sea. I'm not actually here to talk about the Brent Crater. I'm here to talk about something that happened about the same time that the Brent Crater was formed, and that is the evolution of terrestrial plants, the evolution of land plants. And more particularly, I'm here to talk about how the evolution of land plants was dependent upon a mutualistic relationship, a cooperative relationship between plants and fungi. My name is Nick Stowe. I'm an ecologist, and this is the ecology of the Ottawa Valley. "450 million years ago, the landscape here would have been very, very different. There would have been no soil as we know it today. Soil is a mixture of minerals, dirt, and organic matter. And it's the organic matter that is particularly important for the richness of soil. It's the organic matter that captures and holds the nutrients that plants need for growth. 450 million years ago, that organic matter would have been missing. There would have been boulders and gravels and sands, but none of that critical organic matter. And so it would have been extraordinarily difficult for plants to become established on land. It would have been hard for them to find water because the soil would not have been good at retaining water. It would have been very difficult for them to obtain nutrients because the soil would not have held nutrients. And so land plants managed to establish themselves, managed to evolve with the help of fungi. I'm not fond of the movie Avatar. I think it recycles an old racist theme of the great white savior, the European white male who swoops in to rescue the indigenous peoples. But what it does get right is the interconnectedness of things, particularly the interconnectedness of forests. When we think of a forest, we tend to think of these trees, this tree canopy above us. But an important part of the forest, maybe even the most important part, lies below our feet, below the forest floor. And that is an intricate, connected network of plant roots and fungal hyphae, fungi, mushrooms. It is that interconnected network that allows these trees to flourish. Mushrooms, of course, are only the fruiting bodies of fungi. Most of this fungus lives below ground. It is a fine network of white filaments that we call hyphae. And those hyphae lie below this litter on the forest floor. And there, those hyphae collect nutrients, water, to survive and reproduce. And when it comes time for that fungus to reproduce, it sends up the mushroom. And the mushroom will produce spores. Those spores are released and dispersed by wind or water onto the forest floor, where, under the right conditions, they too can germinate and produce a new fungus. I've been wandering the trails for the last hour or two, trying to find a mushroom in the Amanita family. I have had very little luck. Normally I have no trouble finding amanitas, and I'm in the right habitat, I'm at the right time of year, but for some reason I have just not been finding very many. However, I have found one. It's in a bit of an awkward place, and it is not in pristine condition, but here it is. This beautiful white mushroom is called destroying angel, or it's a very closely related species. It's in the Amanita family. It's called destroying angel because angel, for its lovely white appearance, and destroying because it is one of the most deadly mushrooms on Earth for humans. It isn't deadly to all animals. Slugs love them, squirrels will eat them, but if a human was to eat this mushroom, a series of things would happen. First, they would get very, very ill and suffer incredible pain. Then they would start to feel better. Then they would start to feel worse, and they would die. That is because this mushroom contains a poison that destroys the liver. And so at the first stage after consumption, the poison is destroying the liver, causing the sufferer much pain. When that is finished, the person begins to feel better, and then without a liver, of course, their body begins to get poisoned, and they again become sick and die. Amanitas are mycorrhizal fungi. That is, they form a symbiotic relationship, a mutualistic relationship with the roots of plants. About 80% of the plants on Earth are mycorrhizal. They benefit from this relationship with a fungus. Some families of plants are even obligately mycorrhizal. They must form a relationship with the fungi to grow and prosper. Orchids are the best example because orchids must form a relationship with a mycorrhizal fungus in order to germinate and grow. The advantage of this mycorrhizal relationship with fungi is that the hyphal network of the fungus those hyphae are very, very fine. They are finer than the smallest root hairs on the plants. And so they can penetrate into the smallest soil pores, the smallest pores between the soil particles, scavenging for water and nutrients. They can go where the roots cannot. And so, under droughty conditions in particular, having that symbiotic, that mutualistic relationship with the fungus, with the mycorrhizal fungus, provides an advantage to the plants in that they can reach water that otherwise they would not be able to. The same for nutrients. Fungi will produce enzymes that can actually dissolve mineral rock. In particular, they can produce phosphatase, which will release phosphorus from mineral rock and make that phosphorus available to the plants. In return, the fungi get carbohydrates. They get food energy from photosynthesis transported down into the roots and into that fungus. And so the health and growth of this ecosystem is very much dependent upon this mycorrhizal association, this mutualistic relationship between plants and fungi. This is not a mushroom. This is a plant called ghost pipe. It looks like a mushroom because it lacks chlorophyll, but you can see that it has leaves and a flower at the top. It lacks chlorophyll because ghost pipe is parasitic. And what makes it particularly cool is that it is parasitic on the mycorrhizal root network of the surrounding forest. It actually attaches itself to that mycorrhizal network. It is a parasite. Think about how cool that is. A parasite on a mutualistic symbiotic relationship. Evolution is cool. So what do mycorrhizae have to do with the evolution of land plants? Well, again, molecular evidence shows that mycorrhizal fungi evolved at the same time as land plants, about 450 million years ago, which makes sense when you think about what the landscape would have looked like. Very, very poor soils. In fact, really no soil at all. Those plants would have been colonizing a landscape which was incredibly droughty, where the soils did not retain water. They would have been colonizing a landscape where nutrients were incredibly hard to find. And so having that mutualistic, that symbiotic relationship with fungi gave them an advantage. It allowed them to reach sources of water that they would not otherwise have been able to reach, and to access nutrients that they would not otherwise have been able to access, and consequently they were able to colonize and survive on that sterile landscape. And then over tens and hundreds of millions of years, they diversified, they contributed the organic matter that constitutes the living part of the soils we see around us now. If you have a chance, I encourage you to come and visit the Brent Crater and the Brent Crater Trail. It is about a 2 to 3 kilometer hike not too long, moderately rough with some steep sections and uneven footing, so it's not accessible, but it is a beautiful trail. There's a great field guide, and it's a fantastic place to learn about an important event in natural history, and to simply enjoy a walk in the forest. When we look at the productivity and the incredible diversity of terrestrial plants, when we look at something like a pitcher plant, and then we look at something like a cedar, it is astonishing to think that all of this began with an association of fungi and very, very simple plants clinging to life on a largely sterile shore. Thank you for joining me for this video, and I hope you'll join me for the next one.